If you're wondering whether or not your tomato plants will continue producing throughout the heat of summer, I am here to tell you that yes, in fact they do. As you can see behind me, I have some really large tomato plants, but I can't tell everyone that their tomato plants will continue producing throughout the heat of summer because this varies depending on where you live. I am a Zone 9 gardener in the Central Valley of California. We have very hot summers, but we have dry hot summers. We don't have high humidity, and that makes a huge difference for tomato plant growth. However, there are some other things to keep in mind while growing tomatoes that are going to help you have more success through the heat of summer. And so throughout this video, I'm going to share my best tips for keeping my tomato plants productive throughout the entire summer and what exactly is happening right now with our tomato plants. So the very first step to success with tomatoes, if you live in a hot climate, is to give them plenty of space. This is really true no matter where you live, but I always give my tomato plants at least 3 to 4 feet in between each plant, which may seem excessive, but you can see that all of my tomato plants are huge. They are growing into one another, but I have given them the proper amount of space. This gives them lots of air circulation, which prevents pest and disease issues, which is really important if you live in a hot climate. The second important step for success is to plant the right varieties. You need to have a mixture of hybrids and heirlooms if you live in a hot climate, if not just all hybrid varieties. Hybrids are bred to withstand extreme conditions like high heat and high humidity. They are also more productive, and there is nothing bad about a fresh hybrid tomato. Some of my most favorite tomato varieties are hybrids. The only downside is that you can't save the seeds from those tomatoes and plant that true variety. So I always have some heirlooms mixed in, but truthfully, I would rather have productive tomato plants that grow really well, and then I just have to rebuy those seeds from a seed company versus growing all heirlooms that I can save seeds from, but that don't grow as well. Another thing many gardeners say is that green tomatoes won't ripen in the high heat. That just isn't the truth. I have been harvesting loads of ripe red tomatoes. I have green tomatoes that are ripening as we speak. I have blooms still on the plants. There has been nothing slow or unproductive about this tomato crop this year, and we have had a very hot July. We have had 15 plus days over 100 degrees, many days 110 plus degrees. The only difference is we do not have a high humidity. We have very dry, hot days, and the high humidity and the summer rains, that's what's going to affect the growth and the production of your tomato plants, but it doesn't have to do with the heat. In fact, we have had the best summer crop of tomatoes as we speak. The next tip is to support your tomato plants. This is the first year that I have grown tomatoes on this cattle panel arch, and I have had the best tomato season yet. I don't know if it's just luck or if it's because my tomato plants have been kept up off the ground the entire season. They have lots of support, which gives them better airflow and air circulation. Plants aren't topping over. They aren't falling into one another. The fruit is easier to pick. It has just been such an incredible experience growing on this arch, and I will never grow tomatoes another way. So if you have the space to grow tomatoes on a cattle panel arch, that is by far the best method. The other thing is that I am growing tomatoes in the ground. Tomato plants are large plants and they have big root systems, and so they are not going to do well in containers. There are varieties that are better suited for containers. However, if you're growing indeterminate tomato plants and even many determinate varieties, they're going to grow so much better directly in the ground. And what this does is your real soil holds on to moisture much better. I know this can vary. You might have really sandy soil or maybe even really heavy clay soil, but if you have a pretty decent in-ground soil, you can amend it each season with some compost, and growing your tomatoes directly in the ground is going to be much better. The next tip is to water effectively. So tomato plants don't need water every single day. Right now, I'm watering my tomatoes every third day for 20 minutes. However, this changes based on climate, based on your weather, based on soil, etc. But when it was really, really hot and we had a 2-week stretch of about 110 plus degree days, I had my tomato plants getting watered most days every day. Then I switched it to every other day, but I was just coming out and testing the soil. If the soil was still moist, I was skipping a day. If it was dry, then I was watering every day. But now I'm back to every third day watering. And my final tip for a successful season of tomatoes, if you live in a hot climate, is to prune minimally. I know there's lots of videos out there that talk about pruning all of the suckers off, but that just decreases the amount of fruit that you get, and in fact it causes a little bit more stress than your plants need, especially if they already are trying to survive a hot summer climate. So if you head to this next video right here, I talk more in depth on this topic, but I talk about when you should and should not prune your tomato plants. So head to that video next and I'll see you there.